Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show that was brave enough to tell you Cyberpunk was good back in 2021.
Yeah, but Bruce, who's keeping score? Oh, I remember us.
Yeah, it seems like we did a good job, I'm going to be honest with you. It seems like the world has finally come around to the Inside Games way of thinking. Everyone's going to be like, well, it's because they patched it for 2 years. I mean, yeah, okay, all right. Sentiment has finally flipped on the game that flopped hard when it launched in 2020. CD Projekt just announced a new sales milestone in addition to plans for a live-action Cyberpunk show.
Hey, preem times are here again. We love it. But not everyone's convinced. Some internet grumps out there have accused the game's glow-up as revisionism in disguise, reminding the Cyberpunk was always good crowd that CD Projekt betrayed gamers. And they're getting off a little too easy now.
That's right, they lied about Cyberpunk, but did they? And this was something that Lawrence and I have talked about a lot making this video, so Lawrence spent many hours working on this. So we're going to find out, did they really lie about Cyberpunk? How much of Cyberpunk 2077's thud of a launch was due to CD Projekt's intentional lies? And how much was maybe possibly overblown reactions from media types to cash in on the Cyberpunk Dunk Fest?
We didn't have to tip our bias in that conversation by saying that, did we? You can trust us to be neutral in this one.
There is some bias because we both loved Cyberpunk since the launch. After we cover today's Cyberpunk headlines, we're going to chronologically consider every contentious claim about Cyberpunk 2077 and see if CD Projekt Red really lied about promised features or if those features were promised at all.
Yeah, but first let's cover the news real quick because we actually got some headlines. CD Projekt announced that Cyberpunk 2077 has sold 25 million copies, while Phantom Liberty sold 3 million copies in the first week since its launch. By our count, that makes Cyberpunk 2077 the 40th best-selling game of all time, according to Wikipedia.
Wow. And while the studio has no plans for a second season for the 2022 anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners, they just announced a live-action Cyberpunk project in collaboration with media company Anonymous Content.
Not much to say about it at the moment, unfortunately. The project is in early development and doesn't even have a screenwriter attached yet. The only real bit in the announcement is that it will tell a brand new story set in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. So it's probably not going to be a live-action retelling of the game's plot.
Millions in sales, a hit animated series, comics, and now a live-action project doesn't quite sound like the historical flop that it was made out to be when it launched.
Ironically, the launching of Bethesda's Starfield has contributed to Cyberpunk 2077's sentimental turnaround too. Seen multiple editorials, they're making the rounds on Reddit and also on games media sites, observing how Starfield's gameplay limitations, constant loading screens, and just dead-eyed NPCs really illustrate how aggressive and progressive Cyberpunk 2077 really was.
Wait a minute, hold on. Starfield didn't meet expectations? That's super weird. If only we had had a media outlet brave enough to warn people. Yes, we were right about that too. We were right about that, obviously, yeah.
Put it on the board, yeah. Hey, it's difficult being this right all the time. Those points weigh you down before you ask. It's tough out here. But we are humble, as we are right. All the time. So we're going to put our rightness to the test right now, objectively, right after a quick word from our sponsor, Magic Spoon. Today's episode of Inside Games is sponsored by Magic Spoon, which is really clean, nutritionally speaking, way better than any other breakfast cereal. Only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs per serving, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and all flavors are around 150 calories per serving. Breakfast cereal has always been one of my favorite foods. I think it's the gamer in me. There's just something about you just pour and pour, and Magic Spoon is leveling up. They have treats. New treats that are the perfect high-protein on-the-go snack. Each treat has 11 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs, and just 130 calories. Make sure to check out both delicious and protein-packed flavors, marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. I'm a peanut butter guy myself. I like a little salt with my sweet. And just like their cereal, Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, they back it with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen right now and use code INSIDEGAMES for $5 off, or just go to magicspoon.com/InsideGames to save $5 off your order today. And don't forget to throw in some of those treats at the end, the marshmallow or chocolatey peanut butter treats. They're going to make your day worthwhile, I promise. Also, for our Canadian and British fans, Magic Spoon also ships to Canada and the UK. So thank you very much for the support, Magic Spoon.
Thank you, Magic Spoon. Okay, it's time to grill down Cyberpunk and really see if CD Projekt Red lied or not. Here's the idea. Starting from Cyberpunk 2077's announcement, we're going to chronologically poke through all of the contested claims that CD Projekt made about the game along the way. Hopefully by the end of it, we'll have a clear picture of whether or not CD Projekt lied about the game and also how much.
Before we get into it, though, we need some disclaimers. We're in legal territory now. The gamers are going to get us. We're not, nor could we cover everything. Like every last bit of media, every fan interview they did. I mean, it'd take hours to poke through every last little feature. Even the mundane ones that nobody really questions made it into the final game. So we're going to have a discerning lens here.
Also, second, the internet is vast. And while we are always right, always, we also might miss something from time to time.
It happens, yeah.
We're going to do our best to look objectively at the biggest claims and issues, but we are probably going to miss something. So it's okay if we see that in the comments. It's not a big deal. We're not going to get everything, but we understand if you're like, what about this one thing?
Yeah, you also might disagree.
Yeah.
Some people let their imaginations run away with them, and that's, it's hard to tell somebody they're wrong when they imagine something. So when it comes to sourcing, we kind of found the original sources to a lot of this stuff. But some of the more stronger or bolder declarations of missing game features sourced websites that didn't exist or either didn't exist themselves. So that's interesting.
That's sort of weird. All right, enough covering our ass. Let's get this cyber train on the tracks. Shooklin, throw up that lie tracker, will ya?
We're in the lie zone now. Okay, roll it all the way back to May 2012. This is when CD Projekt made their first announcement that they had secured the rights to Cyberpunk and were making Cyberpunk 2077. They didn't really say much about it. They showed a logo, they showed a piece of concept art, but they did have an interesting slide in there. Their promise kind of showing the early design tenets of Cyberpunk, and there are 6 tenets there. That it's a mature RPG, a gripping, non-linear story, advanced RPG mechanics, varied selection of different character classes, gigantic arsenals of weapons, and to set a new standard in the future RPG genre with an exceptional gaming experience. Those are lofty goals and also could be interpreted in a variety of ways, but we're hitting the tax early, Bruce. Do you think they lied in 2012?
So I don't think, it's funny because it says, unfortunately, our promise at the top of this slide. Now it says promise
Right.
there, but a lot of these are subjective. This was what they promised themselves, right? And then they should never have shown this, ever. This should never have been shown to the public because now everyone's like, they promised me advanced RPG mechanics and setting a new standard of the futuristic RPG genre. Now, while I agree with a lot of these, a lot of them are subjective. So there's not much you can do objectively about these.
I think they nailed a lot of them, and you can certainly see the intent behind them. Some of them, you could argue, fell a little short. Advanced RPG mechanics, what does that even mean? But
right.
At 1.0 didn't really have a lot of advanced RPG mechanics.
No.
Still, mature RPG, check mark. Non-linear story, I mean, it's got different endings. Certain quests can end in different ways.
Sure.
Kind of there, set a new standard. Kind of did. Especially now that
totally
years
did.
later we see Starfield on an old standard. So yeah, I don't know that I would say any of these are lies. Maybe just lofty ambitions that fell a little short on some.
This is, I'm going to say this 1,000 times this episode. This is games marketing, everybody. This is what they do. They're marketing a video game to you to make it seem like it's going to do everything. And of course, it's a video game. It's not going to do everything.
This was also 8 years before the game launched, so pretty lofty ideas. All right, no lies yet, but Bruce, here it comes. Fast and hard and early. The very first certifiable lie. January 2013. The amazing teaser trailer showing the man display lady all cyber
so
psychoed
cool.
out. Ugh. It's beautiful, perhaps representative of the game, but at the very end, Bruce. In the classiest way, it says coming when it's ready.
Oh,
It did not do that.
no, it wasn't quite ready.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. We got our first lie. This game did not come when it was ready. I didn't expect it to be that clear, but I mean, honestly, there it is. They said that they would do that, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, they needed to make money. They unfortunately had spent a long time on making a video game, and they needed to release that video game because their company needed to make money. So that's why they released it probably a year before they should have, I want to say. So
Yeah, which is painful considering that a year later, last-gen consoles are just pointless. So it's like you sunk all that time to launching on last-gen, and you'd have to delay to the point where that project would be meaningless just to make it worth releasing. Real catch-22.
all right, let's move on to the next one. Find out if this is a lie or not. This is a CD Projekt presentation at SIGGRAPH in August of 2013. Here's the slide. So they have a mixed third-person perspective / first-person perspective, which obviously we really never got. This is the only third-person promise from CD Projekt Red, and it's in a deck presented at a computer graphics conference to other developers. Also, the game does have third person, but it's like cars and bikes, which is, obviously that's sort of something you expect in this world, but it never has third person in combat.
Yeah, the thing is, they did eventually address this, given that people naturally had the expectation it might be third person, especially after The Witcher 3. They were pretty explicit about the game being first person only, and even laying out their reasons why in June 2018, and that was well before the game launched. So it's not like they were trying to manipulate it or represent it as that. Also, technically, that description is still accurate. Mixed third-person perspective and first-person perspective. It does go third person.
That's true.
And that's the thing, though. This was on a slide to other developers at a conference about technology platforms. Wasn't necessarily meant to be messaging to end consumers. And this link was buried in the internet, by the way. You had to dig really hard to find this presentation in this slide. So I think people were like digging pretty hard and finding reasons to be upset. If you wanted third person to be in the game, that's fine. But I don't think they ever realistically promised it over the course of development. No,
it sounds like they told us in 2018 it wasn't going to be there. So this is, I think pretty much the verdict is not a lie. They did not lie to us. They may have eventually, they may have tried to do this for a little bit, but then development changed, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, okay, moving on to the next beat. June 2018. This is the official E3 2018 trailer for Cyberpunk 2077. This trailer is awesome.
So good.
But doesn't have any gameplay, so how could it promise anything? Well, because V is riding a train, and as far as I can tell, that's the earliest and most profound expectation anyone had that a train system would be in the game. Until later, actually. I found a little tidbit that I don't know if anyone else picked up on. If they wanted to pin CD Projekt to the wall, they have a good reason to do it later. But as far as this is concerned, this is them promising that trains are in the game. I don't know about that one.
Nah, that was a trailer.
Yeah, right. It's a cinematic trailer. And then way on in 2022, which is after the game came out, the community director, Marcin for CD Projekt, straight up said in a tweet, "No trains. They're not going to patch it into the game, so you'll just have to get your trains from a mod." I don't know, Bruce. The train thing comes up, though, with a lot of CD Projekt lied lists, which is why I traced it back here. Do you think that CD Projekt owed us trains?
No. I don't think that a cinematic trailer showing a train promises that a train will be in the video game. No way in a million years. I've seen 1,000 cinematic trailers for video games that don't have anything in them that's actually in the video. I mean, the Old Republic, I saw the baddest ass Old Republic trailers that were cinematic trailers, and they were so cool, and none of that shit was in the game. Didn't look anything like that. But that's the whole point. It's a cinematic trailer. I don't expect it to look like gameplay. That's me. But I don't know what about you?
No, I agree. I was baffled when people were grilling CD Projekt over the lack of a train system, because first of all, didn't expect one and had no idea where the expectation came from. But it would like when I dug into it, it was websites sourcing other websites. Each time the headline would get a little stronger until it turned into, promised train stations cut from the game. So anyway, yeah, I agree. No lie on that one either. The next video's got a little thing in it that I thought was interesting. Anyway, yeah, we'll see.
Or we'll move on to the next one then. All right, so everything's very quiet until August of 2018, when CD Projekt released a 48-minute gameplay walkthrough on YouTube. This is when we get our first real batch of lies, because it's gameplay. Again, the video says work in progress. It's stamped on the top. So I don't know that I ever thought this game was going to be exactly what this was, because it says work in progress. There's an audio disclaimer 30 seconds in. Everything you see is potentially subject to change in the second sentence of the video's description. So there's a lot of disclaimers on this, but I know I remember watching people watch this gameplay and being like, this is it. Cyberpunk is going to be the greatest video game of all time. And I was like, okay.
I mean, it's an impressive gameplay, for sure. So I have there's a lot of claims that basically got traced back to this gameplay in terms of referencing features that were cut from the game. So yeah, 1 minute in, we see the character creation screens. The character creation backstory screen for V is way more detailed in the 2018 version than the life path stuff ended up being. So people point to that, saying that there was supposed to be more. The prologue of the game was supposed to be more rich and interesting, but it wasn't. So lie?
We need to define our backstory. What you choose here will unlock different possibilities later in the game.
Yeah, is that a lot of work in progress? right? Work in progress?
That's the thing. Yeah, the work in progress stuff is going to theoretically disclaim all of this.
Right.
But just for the sake of I don't know, individual things.
The next one is world interactivity. An ad changes specifically for V and directs them to a nearby vendor to buy a product. V buys a soda. That stuff I feel like never happens when you're playing the game ever.
A big part of our RPG experience is having a world that is interactive. Here, a generic ad has morphed into an advertisement specifically tailored to V, informing her of the nearest vendor she can purchase the product. In this case, it shows us where to find some Nicola soda.
Yeah, there's no interactable ads, so...
Yeah, so again, work in progress, but I could see how people would be like, well, where's my thing to buy a product?
Yeah, where's my Minority Report personalized advertising? This one I thought was interesting. This is actually, I wanted to call this out. 12 minutes and 10 seconds in, they claim that Night City is a seamless open world with no loading screens. Something that they actually hit. Like, that is a technical feature that they promised and fulfilled. And I don't know, in the wake of Starfield, I wanted to call that out. So a lot of these actually landed in a pretty substantial way.
We are working hard to make Night City a fully realized, seamless open world with no loading screens. Currently, we're in Watson, a former industrial district where crime now mixes with money.
Okay, that's pretty valid. At 13 minutes in, AI. So this is, I remember I've seen this everywhere on all Reddit posts. They said, quote,
The city's streets are bustling with crowds of people from all facets of life, all living their lives within a full day and night cycle.
this is not the case. The NPCs, all they do is just walk back and forth on the street. Sometimes they're walking in circles and bumping into each other, and like, this does not look at all like this gameplay.
Yeah, I agree. I think out of everything, the way that they describe AI and NPCs is the most not what it ended up being. Almost like they had all these features in mind and actually did chop them out. So,
yeah.
Again, conditional, work in progress, but still, that one's pretty tough. That one's kind of like, okay, it definitely wasn't like that. So, we'll say a temporary lie for now, but we'll have to decide whether or not that counts later. So, this is something I thought was interesting, given the train stuff. At 13 minutes and 33 seconds, there's an NCART elevator, Night City Rapid Transit. So that elevator would only be going to a train platform where you could board a train. Those elevators don't exist in the game. The mod kind of adds them back in. But yeah, I never noticed that before. There actually is a gameplay segment showing a boardable train elevator.
Okay. And so this is, because I think other people saw this and were like, oh, okay, so there's definitely a train.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where they never said there would be a train. There's a train in the cinematic trailer, and then there's a train platform elevator in what's ostensibly gameplay footage.
Yeah, this is where, like, unfortunately, as time goes on, this is 2018, so it's 2 years before release. Unfortunately, as time goes on, they're reinforcing the train, right? They keep showing the train, and then obviously they never put it in. So to me, the more that this happens, the more I feel like it's sort of a lie. Even though it's work in progress, I do feel like this is sort of a lie because they keep reinforcing it from other things they show.
Oh, okay. So we got another maybe another half lie.
Yeah, put it up there. Why not?
All right.
At 25 minutes and 8 seconds, a car shootout happens. Appears to be dynamic, but these sequences obviously were scripted in the final gameplay walkthrough video. Later described as a random encounter. These kind of do happen, but they happen in Phantom Liberty. So this is years later after the game is already released. But it's great that it happens now. It just didn't happen at release.
This does not look good.
Puta madre!
Grab the wheel, Jack!
Oh, fuck!
Yeah, like random gangs finding you in the open world and engaging in combat for sure didn't happen, and that's the sort of feature that this is implying. So, it's all kind of generally lumped under like the open active world, which ended up being quite a bit flatter than it was made out to be. So yeah, I don't know about that one. Again, work in progress. There's even some combat features that this gameplay showed that never made it into the game. At 37 minutes and 46 seconds, there's a sequence where V can inspect a chip to gain more knowledge about it. You can like decrypt shards, but you don't really get much out of it. Only happens a few times in the game, so that's not really a thing. They also equip the chip, which makes a drone follow them around as sort of a little co-op attack buddy. That doesn't really happen in 2077 either. So you got a few gameplay features demonstrated there that super just not in the retail game.
The inspection system allows us to take a closer look at the splinter. You can inspect specific items to reveal details that can help in solving quests.
Yeah. At 42 minutes, the narrator reminds you that this is all work in progress and might change. Turns out a lot of it did.
Just a reminder, everything you've seen and are about to see, including this particular feature we're about to show you, is from a work-in-progress version of the game and may change over the course of development.
This was, again, 2 years before release, 2.5 years. So, to me, this is kind of like they're starting to come back down to earth in between 2018 and 2020.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that in the middle of me scrubbing this video for broken promises, the narrator out of nowhere was like, hey, this stuff might change. So, which is funny because what happens exactly next is literally the thing they got needled on for years. It's so weird. So V then goes on, like grabs a dude, hacks his brain, uploads a hack to the rest of the squad. You can't really do that in the final game. But right after that, we get wall running and we get like mantis blade perching, which were just mobility options. They were at the top of like every canceled feature list. So I thought it was fun that this appears in this gameplay demo just less than 60 seconds after the narrator saying, hey, this stuff might not be in the final game. But hey, it appeared in nearly every Broken Promises list I could find. So what you gonna do? Unfortunately, like for wall running and mantis blade perching, those features were explicitly said to not be in the final game in June 2020. So they did say those were out explicitly before the game launched.
So to me, that's not a lie. So if you saw it in a gameplay walkthrough and then before the release, they were like, nah, we had to cut that stuff. That is not a lie. I would not consider that a lie because they told us, they outright said, nah, it's gone. So if you didn't have a chance to buy the game at that point. So to me, that would not count as a lie.
Now here's the question, Bruce. We had maybe 2 half lies in that gameplay demo, but does the blanket disclaimer excuse those? Or I guess here's maybe to me more the philosophical question behind this whole video that was the source of like 3 or 4 Broken Promises claims. Do you think in this video in 2018, CD Projekt was intentionally misrepresenting how the game would play to try to get people to buy a product they knew that they wouldn't be able to make?
So I don't think they were in 2018. I think that in 2018, they were showing us stuff that they wanted to do and they were still excited about it. And like, we're like, well, we could put it in. And because I don't know that they expected people to be like, well, I'm going to plop down $60 2.5 years before the game comes out. Like, I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think they're still excited about it. Now, I know the original release of the game was in 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like intentional. This feels to me like they're passionate and excited, and then they had to cut features. But I'll just take this opportunity to say what I always say, which is don't pre-order a video game, wait for reviews, watch it on Twitch or YouTube, make sure that this is something that you want to play before you ever put down any money on anything like this. Because you should be smart about your purchases. And most of the time, these creative, optional projects are something that people get excited about. The artists get excited about, and they may not deliver on everything. It's just what happens.
It's tough to kind of talk through that concept, that when you're building something, you don't know exactly what you're going to be able to do before you build it. But you still want to talk with people and kind of lay it out there and you have to start like raising awareness and communicating what you're doing to people. So it's a tough tightrope to walk for sure. But on that note, Bruce, do you say that this gameplay trailer has no lies in it? Fully disclaimed?
Oh man, I guess if like we're gonna be objective about it, then yes, there's no lies because they disclaimed it 1,000 times and told us. But I can see how people got hyped. I get that, and I see that. So this to me is not a lie, but this is marketing, and that sucks. I know it sucks to hear that, but to me it doesn't feel like lies.
Okay. So I think we're still at 1 lie then. The release when it's done lie, but we'll see. In August 2018, it seems like somebody secured confirmation that you would be able to purchase additional apartments in Cyberpunk, which you could not do at launch. But the information is a little odd. It's a screenshot of a DM from a Cyberpunk 2077 account. Basically just saying that is correct in response to a pretty broad question about the ability to buy more property or unlock more property or something like that. So So you could go to this and say, yes, CD Projekt confirmed you could buy more real estate at launch, which you could not really do. But it's also like, it maybe is just one social media person saying what they heard and trying to be helpful. So what I did find actually in my research is that there were a couple of other moments where people got replies from official Cyberpunk accounts. So I think that's something that happens. But this could just be an instance where somebody said something they weren't quite allowed to. Still, does that count as a lie, Bruce?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say, yeah, if it came from from CD Projekt Red, then, and I'm sure it was reported on, so they probably lied about it. But in the sense that this is a broken promise, not necessarily a lie, because they probably, like you said, the communication person was probably like, yeah, it'll be in there, thinking that they knew, but in reality they didn't.
Okay, we got a broken promise then. I'm going to call it a lie.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. We'll call it a lie, broken promise.
The only frustrating thing, I couldn't verify this message at all. You know, it's just a screenshot, but it looks legit, I guess.
Well, let's put it on there. Who cares? People want to be mad. November 2018, Cyberpunk 2077 aims to be, quote, as refined as Red Dead Redemption 2 at launch. This is conditional language spoken to investors by CD Projekt Red. The launch status of Cyberpunk is just it's a whole thing that we're going to tackle when we get there. But does this count as a lie, Lawrence? What do you think?
No, but
aims to be as refined as Red Dead Redemption 2.
Of course they're going to say that. That's their aim, though. Like it's all wiggly political language. Of course they're going to aim to make the best, most refined product that's ever been known. And of course they're going to tell their investors that that's what their ambition is. So there's some elements of like no shit to this. Also, they're not promising that it will be, which would be the lie, I guess. Which they kind of do that later, so we'll get there. But for now, this is just like wiggly language of somebody that is, I think, overestimating their time and resources.
I completely agree. I don't think that's a lie. I think that's marketing speak.
All right, you dodged that bullet.
Yeah. In June of 2019, Miles Toast confirms vehicle customization. It says, quote, there will be some customization options for it. But this was corrected by Pavel Sasko in June of 2020. So this was before the release. And again, anything like this where they say, yep, we can customize a vehicle, and then somebody before the release says, no, that's not going to be in it. That to me does not count as a lie. What do you think, Lawrence?
Okay, now I agree. I think originally it was a pretty circumspect quote to lean on to expect an entire. He was just kind of talking. I think it was just kind of an offhanded stream of consciousness comment. I could see how if it went unaddressed, then somebody would be it would be perfectly understandable to expect that customization would be in the end game. But yeah, there was a correction there. It was kind of put to bed. I guess people still wanted it or expected it at that point, and it still seemed like a broken promise. So, but I don't know. It was such a slight comment. It wasn't put in like a feature roundup, and it was pretty reasonably disclaimed later when it was brought up. So no lie here.
All right, let's get to the good stuff, because this is the big one.
Yeah, this is a big one.
All right, so in July of 2019, WCCF Tech interviewed Alvin Liu from CD Projekt Red. Now, they started talking about the police system. This is a big deal. The police system quote. So I'll read a couple of them here. The first one is, we have a system that we're still iterating upon. People will, not be nice to you if you start killing many people. There are some people you can't kill because that might have blocked a quest, and that's just by design. But it's not what our game is based upon. So I would compare it to The Witcher 3, where if you chopped off the head of a villager in the middle of nowhere, the guards wouldn't show up out of nowhere. But if you're in a big town and someone from the guard sees you and people nearby run away screaming for help, people will come and try to stop you, and they're going to be usually pretty powerful.
That's a lot of words, and it creates the impression that something interesting will happen, right? But it doesn't really promise any features.
That's true.
And honestly, the cop system in Cyberpunk at launch was kind of like Witcher 3. Whereas if you do something bad, then guards will just run over and bop you for it, and that's kind of it. There weren't like horseback chases across the open world in Witcher 3, so...
It's not good.
He didn't say it would be good,
There's more. So also from this interview, We're not going to have this locked invisible wall where you can't go past it because we show a message on the screen saying you must go back. Doesn't make sense, right? It's like I just crossed the street. What's the issue? So we won't have anything like that.
Like an invisible wall with a little box pop up telling you to turn around. Ha ha! I thought that was interesting. I mean, Jesus, talk about nailing a dunk from across time.
But for Starfield, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, right? 4-dimensional chronological dunk. Love it.
It's true. And they don't do, I mean, that game, Cyberpunk doesn't do that. So, and then finally, here's the last quote. And actually, we're targeting consoles as first-class platforms. and it looks amazing there. So obviously, if you spent, $2,000 building your PC rig, it's going to look better on that, which it does. But the graphics are quite amazing for what you're going to get from Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles and low-end PCs. Now, are they talking about next-gen consoles at that point? Or are they talking about the previous-gen console?
Okay, yeah, no, the question was specifically about consoles and low-end PCs and low-end hardware. So that one's tough. Yeah, because we know, hindsight, it obviously launched in a pretty rough shape on Xbox One and PS4. But in July 2019, and given the context of the quote, which is essentially like, it'll look good for the hardware. I mean, is that untrue? Does Cyberpunk, in context of other PS4 games, look pretty good?
No.
You don't think so?
I mean, like, it just looks like even no matter what they're trying for in the game, it just didn't look good on those old consoles. And the problem when he says we're targeting consoles as first-class platforms, like, that's rough. That one hurts. That one really hurt. So to me, this is a lie or a broken promise. Like, nothing. First-class platforms would be PC. He should have said that.
Yeah, that's fair, Bruce. I think when Cyberpunk launched, it was a clear issue that like PC was the number one platform for them. It was the best experience there. So yeah, I think that's the one thing you can really pin down. I don't think anyone would dispute that either. So yeah, we might have a lie on our hands here.
The other stuff though, like the invisible wall, obviously they didn't really do, and then the cop system, that's just a bunch of like gobbledygook. They're not. He's not saying anything that it actually will do.
Yeah, there's a difference between the cop system is bad and they promised us a better one. Because, yeah, I didn't really see any broken promises about cop systems, aside from generically implying that it was a GTA-style game and then people assuming that the cop system would match. So, yeah, I agree, not necessarily a broken promise there, but yeah, that first-class platform comment, that's not the best. So, big L on that one. Okay, moving up. This is Q&A that was on the CD Projekt Red forums, and a post from Philip Weber, who was a senior quest designer. Quote, the new gameplay options, thanks to our fluid class system, essentially give us more opportunities to make our quests even more nonlinear. It's a lot of fun to work with our level and encounter designers on locations for our quests, because there are always so many different options we can come up with. And sometimes, these options can then also change the story. So just like the life path, these gameplay abilities make it easier for us to make the quest more nonlinear than ever. So this kind of is implying that life paths and RPG abilities, your build, will make quests super nonlinear. You'll be able to solve quests a lot of different ways thanks to those things. Did that end up being true for you, Bruce?
No, but again, this is a bunch of like marketing speak, where like this is what they wanted, but it doesn't play out that way. Now, to me, when I read this, I'm not like, this is it. It's going to be nonlinear. I'm going to have so many I'm going to have 10,000 options to solve the like. It's just somebody being excited about their game, and I'm not taking them at like, I don't take this as a promise. This is just somebody who is kind of trying to answer the question in the most passionate, excited way possible.
Yeah, I agree. They're talking a lot about what they want to do and what their new tools enable them to do. And they talk about their goals, not necessarily promising the reality of it. Life paths, for sure, don't super contribute to nonlinearity. You get like one dialogue burst and that's it, most of the time. Actually, in Phantom Liberty, there have been more like actual conversation deciders because of life path, which is pretty cool. I do think that it was somewhat nonlinear based on your build and your skills. There were times that you could double jump up to a vent or force a door open if you're beefy enough. Those are pretty blunt ways, but it's kind of there. Maybe not to everybody's satisfaction, but So yeah, I think the same, Bruce. I think this was more of an ambitious description of where the game would land, not necessarily a promise that certain features would be there.
I agree. All right, let's fast forward to June 2020.
Okay, so in June 2020, there was a German podcast with developers Miles Tost and Philip Weber. And thanks to a translation on Reddit, we have potentially another lie from our developers. So here's the translation, quote, "While there are some areas in The Witcher 3 where villagers don't have a daily routine, they are planning to improve this with giving more than 1,000 NPCs a handmade routine." So that's like kind of that day-night cycle, radiant AI kind of thing coming back. This idea that every resident of Night City is an actualized human being with a personality and a past and a favorite food, and then they go home and they go to work and all that stuff. Obviously didn't end up being in the game. Now, here's the deal with this particular quote. Later on in that same Reddit post, the one who was doing the translating apologized for misinterpreting several other aspects of this podcast. They kind of described a system where cyberspace was this Skyrim meets Tron area, where you'd go in and walk around and you could like summon cyberware as digital Pokemon. Yeah, he was like, whoops, I didn't mean to say that at all. So just to give you an idea of how people's imaginations can run away with, it's just funny that people would then cite this after the fact to say that Cyberpunk's AI was promised to be so much better than it ended up being. Okay, all that disclosed. Bruce, do you read this and see a broken promise?
I mean, I do, because no NPC had a handmade routine. Maybe there might have been maybe a few or something, but I never saw them or ran into them. That said, I feel like we already chalked this up as a lie earlier on in the episode. So I don't... This just goes along with the whole AI thing. So if we didn't already... I'll add another lie just for fun. Just for fun. Let's just say, because there could be misinterpretations in the translation. There could be all sorts of things that went wrong here. But let's put it in. Let's put it in just to be fair. Let's say this is a lie, because there's definitely no NPCs with a handmade routine.
Jeez, I don't even think that the quote is necessarily accurate, because it was translated by somebody who did a lot of accidental embellishing in other parts of their transcript. So I don't know. I think they were a little strong with the wording. But yeah, I think it still counts, like you said. So sure, we'll chalk it up. Okay, third lie. How dare you, CD Projekt?
Yeah, put it in there. All right. Also from June of 2020, there's an article on Game Reactor with an interview with level designer Max Pears. And he says, quote, "Oh yeah, the city does change. One of the things we've mentioned is some of the people you see walking around, they're based on their own living actions. It's one of the things that makes the city feel more alive. Some areas, for example, will become more dangerous at night, and some will become less crowded during the night and more crowded during the day. So you will see the impact of the time of day for sure." Is this a lie?
I never saw the impact of the time of day.
Me either. It may happen, but I never took note of it.
It's funny because I remember some people were even discussing this particular aspect, and they're like, wait, is that a lie or not? I think if you can't tell, basically this developer saying you'll be able to tell. And I think the fact that we can't tell means that it's not a thing, right?
Yeah, okay, all right. I'm fine with that. I mean, I think if we're going to make it a lie, I think it's grouped up with the AI and all the NPC stuff they talked about. So I think we've already put that lie in.
I agree, Bruce. And that's where this gets a little tricky, because you probably noticed by now, a lot of these comments are sort of leaning into the feel of the world and the vibrancy of the AI, which is something people were disappointed with, but I think in retrospect had a really hard time looking back and finding the thing that told them directly that the game would behave in certain ways that it ended up not. So yeah, this is all kind of vaguely under that living, breathing, interactable, simulating world that people didn't get.
And I hear that. I understand.
All right, this next one is kind of more in that just systemic overall feeling vibe check. This was actually a pretty cool moment. Senior level designer Miles Tost was speaking with the fan community Netrunner 2077 on Discord. That whole conversation was recorded and uploaded. That was actually a pretty fun, informal chat. They're joking and stuff. It's a good time. It's a good time. But here's the full quote in describing the RPG-ness of Cyberpunk.
Yeah, how I sort of would summarize this is summarize.
Summarize.
Very good. My pun game is strong today. Is that really? I think people tend to forget that. I think I said this before. Like, this game is an RPG first and foremost, right? So customization and making equipment choices, making choices in the skills that you have, the talents, how your character looks, how you play him in a dialogue or whatever, what choices you make is really center stage of the experience, right? And I think like lots of people just look at the game and go like, "Ah, man, it's first person and there's guns, so it's a shooter," and that
frustrates me.
is really surface level assessment. You'll as a role, I think in many ways, Cyberpunk is a much deeper role playing experience than Witcher 3.
And essentially, he's describing how like Cyberpunk's an RPG. It's more of an RPG than Witcher 3. So Bruce, do you think Cyberpunk is more of an RPG than Witcher 3, or was that a lie?
I'm going to direct this right back at you, Lawrence, because you're more of a Witcher 3 expert than I am. I've only played Witcher 3 for like 20 hours or whatever. But I know you've like beaten it, done the whole deal. So do you think that Cyberpunk is a deeper role-playing experience than The Witcher 3?
I would say so, yeah. Based on a few factors. You get a few, like the story always goes in a particular direction in both games. So that's not, like RPG doesn't mean I control the story completely. But I think there are more and substantially different kinds of dialogue options you can pick as V. You're always V, but you can be different shades of V more than you can really be different shades of Geralt. I also think in terms of the mechanics, there's way more play styles in Cyberpunk than there were in Witcher 3. In Witcher 3, you had swords, bombs, oils, poisons, and signs. And those are kind of all the mechanics, and you can kind of use them all. But in Cyberpunk, you have a build, and that kind of determines how you play the game. And you can have many different kinds of builds. So you can kind of make like a melee SMG bomb-throwing guy in Cyberpunk, or you can be a hacker or a bunch of other things. So I think in that respect, because of the mechanical systems and the variety of those, it is more of an RPG than Witcher 3. For me at least, it ended up being less of a hardcore RPG than I wanted. I was expecting like Baldur's Gate 3 level interactivity and story manipulation in Cyberpunk, and they did not give me that. But I do think it's more RPG-y than Witcher 3. So I'm gonna say no lie here.
I'm gonna zoom out even further on this. This is a subjective quote and a subjective question. There is no objectivity to this, so it wouldn't be a lie anyways. This would be just somebody talking about what they thought it was, and then you can have other opinions that are not that. So I don't think to me that this would ever be a lie, because it's just, again, somebody talking very passionately about what they're making. Okay, let's move on to the biggest lie of all, the one that everybody talked about. CDPR hid performance on the last-gen consoles. So October of 2020, Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed to make sure it ran well on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. CD Projekt did upload footage of the game running on last-gen hardware, but it was a PlayStation 4 Pro, and it obviously didn't crash. So that said, this footage doesn't massively misrepresent how the game ran at launch. It's just glitch and crash free on a PlayStation 4 Pro. So it doesn't show the absolute worst performing areas that we all saw in a bunch of different, glitch compilations. So, Lawrence, are we in lie territory yet?
It's selective truth telling, that's for sure. And even if we're on the fence right now, the narrative is going to make it pretty clear in just a minute here. So later in November 2020, this is after footage of PS4 got uploaded and it looked passable. Here's CD Projekt joint CEO Adam Kaczynski saying that Cyberpunk was performing, quote, surprisingly good, I would say, for such a huge world on last-gen consoles. He went on to say, quote, we had those extra 3 weeks and we achieved a lot within this final stretch. So we believe the game is performing great on every platform, of course, accordingly to platform capabilities, but not every platform should be great. Yeah, and then also when it came into review season, they only distributed PC codes.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So I think the conjunction of all these things, they knew it wasn't great. They knew because they actively maneuvered around letting press or people see the console version in its proper state before launch. So they knew. They didn't say. They even said the exact opposite. That feels like a lie to me, Bruce. What about you?
I completely agree with you. So we'll chalk it up, put up in the lie territory. However, when I got this game in December of 2020, I knew the game was not going to run well on old consoles. I knew. Not only because the next-gen consoles were already out, but it just felt like this big, expansive game with these amazing graphics that I was like, if you play this on a fucking Xbox One, it's going to look like trash. And so it was interesting to me that a bunch of people were like, yeah, but if I get it on the Xbox One, I expect the best experiences that you're going to get on the PlayStation 5 and this Xbox Series X. And I was like, what? Who would ever expect that? So it's really weird. So this weird disconnect that I never would have expected. People would have thought it's going to look better, or I'm sorry, look the same on PlayStation 4 and 5. No way. But people did.
They sure did. Yeah, and I mean, back in 2021, we did a little digging around and found that Cyberpunk at that time wasn't really too far off center when it came to aggressive late generation console games, especially open world RPGs. I mean, it didn't perform that differently from Red Dead Redemption 2 on the base PS4. That game ran in the mid to high 20 frames per second, with some cutscenes going even lower than that. So frame rate wise, Cyberpunk wasn't too off the mark. It was really just the crashing and the glitches, I think, that put it over. Also the fact that it was supposed to be the next coming of Christ and wasn't quite that. So I don't know, Bruce. Yeah, do you think we got a lie on our hands?
I do. I think that I will put it up there because they're saying it ran surprisingly good on previous gen consoles. If they're saying that, like, there was no surprisingly good. I have talked to people that played it on previous gen consoles and actually enjoyed it. They said, like, oh no, I had a good time. It didn't crash very much. Like, it was fine. But I don't know if that phrase surprisingly good applies.
It's conditional, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess for the tech running, it is pretty surprising that it runs at all. At least right now, the consensus is that CD Projekt has made good on it with the updates and expansions. The fact that if you had the last Gen 1, you get the next Gen 1 for free, air quotes, which means, hey, no matter what the results of our investigation are, we still called it. Boom. Cyberpunk's good. We're still right. We can't disprove ourselves on our own show, Bruce.
So, what did we learn here? That's the real question. What did we learn? The thing is that I didn't learn anything because I already knew what this was, and this was marketing. This happens everywhere. This happens with products. This happens with movies. This happens with television shows. This happens with everything that you consume. There is marketing for this, and interestingly enough, there was a lawsuit just recently levied against, I believe, Wendy's and McDonald's, I want to say, where they sued them because the pictures of the food do not look like the food that you get. And they were sued, and they're totally right, by the way. The food that you get never looks like the picture, ever. However, a judge ruled in favor of McDonald's and Wendy's and said that McDonald's attempts to show you the fact that, this is probably what the food is going to taste like. They show you the caloric intake. There's a lot of stuff that they sided with the big companies because it's advertising. And that's the worst part of this, is that it's not ever going to be a perfect game, but I just see Cyberpunk as the number one, held up as like, it shattered my view of reality. And I'm like, this happens all the time, every day. I don't know why this was the one thing that everybody dogpiled on. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, maybe it taught people to be critical, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
For me, it did shatter something for me. It shattered the impression that games media was anything other than a huge solidarity machine. And I hope I get to a good point by the end of this, but the way I see it now, games media or companion media, it's just a big engine designed to maximize viewership. And that comes from telling people what they want to hear. Theoretically, or the way that I see it, is that it's our role to be critical of the industry when it's deserved. But in tandem with that, we also have an obligation to counter consensus when we see it as heading in the wrong direction. And I promise I'm not going to quote the end of Ratatouille, but there was a lot to defend about Cyberpunk when it came out, but pretty much everyone on the internet, and I can't really blame them for that, but also in the media, just took the easy dunk rather than try to defend its virtues, which are thankfully now way easier to see and far more widely appreciated. But I don't know, I was bummed that people in general didn't expect more from their critics and talking heads. You guys should expect us to be more experienced and have a clear view of the industry and its products, especially if we're trying to convince you that you should listen to us and our curation of games or their content. So now I just need to disclose, because I never want to feel like I'm talking shit on people that think, or I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit on things that people enjoy. So there's nothing wrong with cozy, feel-good companion media. That's the solidarity thing, basically. But we're inside games, you know? So sometimes we're going to say the unpopular thing because it's, you know, it's for games. So I bring that up because I want to also get ahead of comments that I'm sure will land on this video accusing us of being contrarian just to get views. Honestly, that's the opposite of how you get views. We could probably do that if we wanted to, but we choose not to because we're too spiteful, I guess. I mean, that's why we started this channel. We were both annoyed that everybody was just taking these one-dimensional dunks on Cyberpunk, and we thought there was something there worth defending and worth talking about. So we do it for Sweet Lady Gaming and for you, the viewer, because we love you guys and we love games.
Also, Lawrence, we do it for the truth. To me, like, there was a lot of truth that was getting lost because everybody wanted those retweets and they wanted those hot likes. And I was like, but everybody's just glossing over all the other stuff. So for me, when we started this channel, I was like, let's do it for the truth.
Yeah, and that was the point of all of this, to counter the bulleted lists of lies that Reddit likes to curate and circulate. Well, let's look at them all and see where they actually came from and what the intent behind that was. So
if you stuck around for this hour-long video, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. We do know that these patrons that support the Inside Games Patreon definitely stuck around to the end. And these patrons that we know of have never lied about anything to anyone. Spirit Bear, Rook, Captain Coldblood, Regulus, Jared Watkins, Ian McGee, and Old Baby Leg would never lie. They're not Pinocchio at all.
Well, there's another way to save yourself some pain, Bruce, and that's to never believe in the first place. And that's what my patrons have chosen to do. Never believed a single word out of a game dev's mouth their entire lives. Gypsy Nova, Shaky Pants, Brandon Young, Matt Bogenberger, Cash Putnam, and UBSC Battleroid. Stay strong and stay pure. Just like, oh, and before we go, the best meme ever made? And actually, show that webm too, man. I love that thing of the dude like blinking around and then T-posing.
Oh, yeah, there are so many good glitch compilations of Cyberpunk, guys. If you want to laugh for days, go look up glitch compilations of Cyberpunk because they make me laugh forever. They're great.